excellent day for an exorcism.
Thrill me.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Horror Flicks and Guitar Picks podcast. I'm your host, Tim, and today I'm joined, as usual, by my co-host, Steven. How's it going, man?
Rock and roll, out of control. That's all I have. I'm doing good.
Hey, I mean, that's kind of, they always say that the devil and rock and roll go together, and today we're talking about May the Devil Take You from 2018, an Indonesian horror film, which, that title kind of goes along with rock and roll. So, hey, that's not too far off. It's a little bit, we can go 8 degrees of Kevin Bacon on that one and connect it. But other than that, have you seen anything lately that you really enjoyed, or have you been listening to anything lately that stuck out, or been in any shows or anything?
Yeah. Let's see. What have I been watching? Well, I watched this movie, so that counts as one. I went and saw, oh my Lord. I saw the new Evil Dead Burn. I don't know if you've had a chance to see that yet.
Yeah, I'm
But
still
I caught
slacking on that one.
And I also caught I went and saw The Odyssey this past weekend, which was sick.
Hell yeah. Now I'm debating on
Oh, yeah.
going to see that one. I haven't seen Evil Dead Burn yet though, so I'll probably see that before I see the Odyssey. And then I already have my tickets for Spider-Man Brand New Day in like 2 weeks, so I'll be at that. Well,
Mm,
week and a half, I guess. But so I'll be at that next Thursday. But
nice.
hell yeah,
Yeah, I was watching. They had that trailer for the Spider-Man movie in the Odyssey, and I was like, I think the last movie I saw was the second one with Tobey Maguire.
oh shit,
And
it's a
that's the
good
last
one.
Spider-Man movie I've seen. I haven't seen a single one with Tom Holland. I've seen Into the Spider-Verse. I've seen the cartoon one,
Yeah,
uh, which people will probably get mad at me for calling it a cartoon. The animated version, those movies
Mhm.
rule. Um, see, but yeah, the Odyssey was sick.
Yeah,
I and I'm sure. I mean, it's not really a spoiler because the storyline of the Odyssey has been around for a very long time.
yeah.
So people know like the main like plot points. But this movie made me cry a little bit, and I think that's only happened in like 2 films ever.
Oh yeah,
Uh, so yeah, it's a good one. It wasn't like anything crazy, but I do love me some dogs, so
yeah.
it was a touching dog moment.
Hell yeah.
But other than that, haven't been really listening to anything new other than just the usual. I'm trying to think what new has come out that I've listened to. Nothing that's really like sticks to my mind. If anything, I've been getting it like I'm bored with music right now. I need some suggestions, Tim.
Hell yeah. I feel you on that. It's sometimes it's hard to find new music, especially when there's so many bands out there, and like social media sometimes will go on a kick where it just shows you what it wants to show you. I don't see like I follow so many bands on Facebook and I never see band shit on Facebook. Like I only
Hmm.
get like band shit on Instagram, and I do follow a lot more bands on Instagram, of course, because that's what the podcast is kind of about. But no, it's just it's wild that like I see like no band shit on Facebook when I follow so many bands. It's just the algorithm sucks these days. Even
Hmm.
YouTube, my son is like he's destroyed my YouTube algorithm so much, and that used to be a way I used to find new music a lot, is literally my recommendation page.
Sure.
And like as it would always just show me like live videos of Hate 56 and Feet First and stuff. And I
Hmm.
follow those people, but I have to like go to my subscriptions to see those now. Like they don't just get thrown in my recommendation page. So because all it is on the head is like people playing
Sure.
fucking Fortnite and Rainbow Friends and stuff. But uh
Hmm.
now, as far as new music goes, I haven't been listening to a ton of new stuff. Two new EPs that just came out that I was pretty excited for was a UK band called Flesh Creep, which they're a past guest of the show, and they're gonna come. Their vocalist is gonna come back on and do Possession with me very soon, so that'll be a fun one. And their new album is really cool. I
Nice.
really enjoy it. And then another new EP is Criminal Instinct. They finally put out a new record after it's been a while. It's been a couple years, so and now I was really stoked on those two. But other than that, new music wise, I've kind of still been listening to that same playlist I told you about a few like weeks back and stuff. So haven't really been digging into too much like
Hmm.
new stuff. Let me bring up my notes and see if there's anything I forgot music wise. But I did go to Billy String's concert. That it was like such a big concert that people were like literally like Wavy 10, the news place up at like the main news people up in Virginia Beach were like claiming that it was a festival. It's literally, and he didn't even have an opener. It was literally one person, and but it was sold out, and there was
Damn.
like thousands of people camping out and shit. It was awesome. It was a great show. I only went to Friday night,
Uh,
and he did 2 nights, but.
yeah, I believe it. People freak out about some Billy Strings. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, no, I had a blast. He was awesome, and definitely recommend going to see him if you ever get the opportunity. But uh, no, that was it for music. I just looked at my list, but I did get to take my son to the movies for the first time, which was super fun. And we saw Minions and Monsters, uh,
Mm,
which I freaking loved. It. I don't know if I talked about this last time at all, but I don't think we recorded since this happened. But
uh-huh.
pretty Minions and Monsters has so much like callback to old cinema. Like it's about like them trying to make a movie in the 50s and stuff like that. It might even be before the
Sick.
50s. There's like even a scene where there's like a director that runs out of film and has to like go see the producers to get like more money and like all this
Hmm.
shit. So it's like I don't know, it's just very like nod to like old cinema and like filmmaking and stuff and like teaches kids like nowadays everything's shot on digital, so there's going to be so many kids that come up never knowing what film is, but this movie, kind of
Yeah.
teaches them about those things. So it might put that little nugget of interest in their minds. And no, I really enjoyed it. It was super cute. There's a minion named Dick, and like the whole movie,
Mm,
they keep like calling him Dick. And then finally one calls him Richard, and he kind of looks at him like, bitch, that's not my name. Like,
that's awesome.
so that's just funny as shit. But no, it's definitely a fun one. I recommend parents taking their kids out for it because it's like a good one. Like parents will enjoy it too. It has a lot of like over the head jokes for parents that the kids won't really get and stuff. So,
Sure.
and I even had the
Oh yeah.
little Goomy guy right here that's voiced by Trey Parker from
Oh, sick.
South Park. He's hilarious, but my son got this out of the Wendy's Happy Meal. But no, it was awesome. It was fun to take my kid to his first movie. He did great with it, so we're gonna go back soon and
Hmm.
stuff. But then other than that, movie wise, the only thing I watched was Ready or Not 2 finally because that hit
Mm,
HBO Max. I really enjoyed that. That was a fun little. Pretty much, it was very similar to the first one, just new jokes, and it was fun to have
sure.
what's her name attached to it. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but
The chick from Lisa Frankenstein, right?
yeah, Catherine Newton, I think is her name. Yeah.
Yep.
It popped into my head eventually. I was like,
Catherine Randy Newton.
her and McKenna Grace are starting to hit like that. Well, McKenna Grace has been around since she was like way younger, but I feel like they look about the same age now. So for some reason, like every time I think of Catherine Newton, the name McKenna Grace pops in my head. But
I could see that. Yeah,
but I know the difference between the two. It just takes me a little longer to think of Catherine Newton's name.
sure.
But and then I watched Multiple Maniacs for the first time, a John Waters film from back in the 70s, maybe even late 60s. I think it's 70s, but
Sick.
I might be wrong on that. But if I'm wrong on that, just comment, let me know. But no, I really enjoyed that one. It's a wild one. It's pretty much about like a Roman freak show that goes around and like robs people, and
Hmm.
eventually like they start to turn on each other and try to kill each other and stuff like that, and it goes from there. But it's got Divine in it as Divine. You got Mink
Hmm.
Stole in it, all of the Dreamlanders and stuff. So no, it's a very fun movie, and that one's on HBO Max as well. So really enjoyed
Sweet.
that. But and then the only other thing I wanted to mention that we can kind of segue into this movie a little bit with is that I realized we didn't mention it all in the episode, but I really enjoyed the score for Hokum. Joseph
Mm,
Bashara, if I'm not mistaken, did that score, and that's the guy that did one of my favorite scores of the past like 15 years. It's a film that I wouldn't say is one of my favorite films at all, but the score itself really stands out to me, and that's Insidious. He's the guy that did the Insidious score, and for those that don't know, he also played the lipstick demon in the Insidious film. So it's
oh,
one of the first times that like the composer actually just randomly played something in the movie. You know what I mean? So
crazy.
yeah, it's pretty cool. But he's also done some
Huh.
other cool movies. I can't think of any off the top of my head. Maybe I'll look in a second. But no, I only thought about that because I really enjoyed the score for May the
Uh,
Devil Take You as well, today's movie. So I thought I'd just kind of kick off with mentioning that. This score just was so unique to me with May the Devil Take You with the way it felt like it had like synth vibes at time, but never felt
hmm.
like a synth score. But it was always haunting. You know what I mean? It felt magically haunting, but
Yeah.
not in a way that like not in a silly way. You know what I mean? So,
Oh, totally. Oh, I forgot one, which is funny because I literally watched it last night, but I watched Exit 8 last night.
oh hell yeah, what'd you think of that?
I liked it. It it wasn't anything that like blew my mind, but like it is perfectly a fun like I don't know, kind of Twilight Zoney kind of type spooky tale. Like it's not very scary at all.
Yeah.
But it's cool. I mean, I like the whole lore and like labyrinthy-esque like liminal space that they're in. But yeah, it was fun. It was cool.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed it, especially for what they did with like if you ever played the game, there's no story at all in that. And then I feel
Okay,
like there's like a lot of layers to it that you can really pick apart with, what certain meanings are and this and
sure.
that. But no, I agree. It's like it's not mind blowing, but because it's at a brisk 90 minutes, it never overstays its welcome and it gets going so quick that it
Oh
feels
yeah,
it's like very fun in my opinion. Just because like by the time you're like wondering what's all happening, you start to
totally.
get answers and then it's over. You know what I mean? So or you get
Well,
what
I
answers
even
you're gonna
at one
get.
point I was like, because how simple like the whole setup is, I was like, is this gonna get old? Like,
Yeah.
am I gonna get sick of seeing this same, you know, platform that he walks onto every time? Um, but yeah, they do a really good job of, making it entertaining and keeping it going, and it doesn't feel like the whole repetition of it all doesn't feel, cumbersome. So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Kind of a small spoiler alert for it. So for people that don't want to hear spoilers on Exit 8, and I highly recommend checking it out, especially if you have a Shutter account because it's up there now.
Mhm.
Just fast forward 30 seconds, and it's not a big spoiler, so if you just keep listening, it won't ruin it for you. But one thing that really worked for me is how about the time I was starting to get worried about the repetition, it shifted perspectives to the other guy, the walking guy. And I never
Yeah,
expected that in a million years. I never thought we were going to get any kind of anything with him other than just him being a creepy aspect of the movie. So as soon as
totally.
it shifted perspectives, that threw me through such a loop. I was like, "Whoa, are we going to start completely over?" Like I was like, "What the fuck?" So it was just like, no, it did
Yeah.
a great job with keeping
Yeah,
it.
I loved how their all of the people's like uh personal journey was like becoming like intertwined and overlapping with each other. I thought that was kind of really cool. So,
Yeah. No, and the kid has so much ambiguity to him. Like they didn't even name the. Well, I don't think any of the characters have actual names. If you look at the subtitles and stuff, or not subtitles, if you look at like the cast listing, I think it's like the Walking Man, the kid, the boy,
oh
or
yeah, interesting.
like here I'll look real quick. But I also did double check it. It was Joseph Ashara that did Hokum. I wasn't. I know when I said it, I was like, if I'm not mistaken,
Oh,
it
okay.
100% was. Yeah. So like in Exit 8, like the main character is just like his name is the Lost Man. Then you got the Walking Man. Then you got the Boy. So like nobody has a name in the like cast list. You know what I mean? So
Cool.
it like adds to the ambiguity of like who is what
Hmm.
to who. Especially with like the lore father son that they show
Hmm.
and all this stuff. So no, I really enjoyed that. It's so much like there's so much to pick up on and think about that before you can truly think about it, something else is already like in your head to think about. So I think it'd be a fun
Hmm.
one to dive into, especially since it is only 90 minutes. It's easy to rewatch and it's on Shutter. So we might throw this on the
Yeah,
list
it's a
for when we
quick
get around to like
quick
Halloween
rip
time.
for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know why I even thought about throwing it on around Halloween time, but just because of uh like I want to dive into some older stuff and then everything going around and
Hmm.
no hell yeah no X-Day is awesome. I'm glad that you got to catch that one because I remember we talked about it briefly on Hokum, but uh
Hmm.
I'm personally so bad. I get recommended so many movies doing this show that I've like forget that somebody even recommended it until I'm like either editing the episode or like I finally go to watch it and I'm like, oh yeah, somebody told me this movie ruled and it does. You know what I mean? So no, it's
Hmm.
I was wondering if you even were like would remember that I recommended it or not. But hell yeah, I'm glad that you checked that one out and
Oh
definitely
yeah.
recommend other people checking it out.
Yeah, as soon as I saw, I think I got to add that it was coming to Shutter. So as soon as I saw that, I made a note in my phone, like, don't forget. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I was excited to watch it.
Oh yeah, yeah, and all the people attached. That was another thing is it's solid for. I didn't recognize any of the names attached to it and anything that they had done in the past. Of course, it's a Japanese horror film, I believe, and but like, uh,
Mm,
so like I wouldn't recognize the people anyways. But looking through their IMDb's, they haven't done any like other like Japanese horror films that I've even heard of or seen or nothing. So, and I do watch quite a bit of foreign horror, so or at least
sure.
look through it. So if I hadn't seen it, at least mostly heard of the big ones and stuff. So. But hell yeah. But we can dive into May the Devil Take You talking about foreign horror because uh, this is one that I kind of threw in the ring. what inspired me to choose this one was
Hmm.
literally Evil Dead Burn coming out, and I kind of wanted to see Evil Dead Burn before talking about this, but I just couldn't get around to it. So I'm not too worried about it because I don't want to just completely spend the whole time comparing this to Evil Dead movies. Uh, but this feels so much like an Evil Dead film that I felt like it was perfect timing to throw this in the ring and like remind people, like, hey, I know some people are out there saying they really don't like Evil Dead Burn. Maybe go check maybe the Devil Take You out. And also we have May the Devil Take You 2, which is out there as well. I think that one's on Shutter. So if you enjoy this one, there's a sequel out there as well.
Mm,
But
okay.
but hell yeah. What'd you think of May the Devil Take You? I
Heck
know
yeah.
this is the first
Yeah,
time watch for you.
yeah, I'd never even heard of it. It was like completely off my radar until you brought it up, and I was like, yeah, I've never even heard of this film. Um, and then when I looked up the director, I was like, oh, well, I saw The Night Comes for Us, and he did like a segment on VHS 2, I think it was.
He did
I
like my
think he did
favorite
like the
segment.
ABCs of Death as well.
Yeah, he did my favorite segment, all of VHS, the Safe Haven one, where they go to the cult and like the cult just starts like
Mm,
mass suiciding while they're there or mass unaliving
yeah.
while they're there. And it's just like, yeah, that's
Uh,
awesome. But
as soon as I saw that he was on that one, I was like, I know exactly which one he did.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, and it's funny. I remember The Night Comes From Us, which was like a crime thriller type movie. I know I watched it. I don't, to be honest, I don't really remember it. But that was one of those films that like there's a lot of movies that are kind of like in that similar space. And they kind of all blend together for me. And those are usually the like, oh, this seems interesting to watch late at night. So I'm usually like falling asleep on the couch or something like that. So
you know,
I probably need to go back and revisit that one. But yeah, I loved this movie. Exactly what you mentioned about Evil Dead Burn, like without us going into details, and I don't want to like influence your thoughts on that movie, but like I didn't love Burn a lot. I mean, it was fine. It was entertaining. I enjoyed it. But the spirit of what I like in an Evil Dead film, it just felt like a big departure. But this felt much more like an Evil Dead film to me than Burn did. So I was very excited to dive into this after watching Burn. And yeah, it surprised the hell out of me. It was a good one. So
no, hell yeah. No, I'm glad that you enjoyed it. And that's another thing I like about this film is pretty much when it dropped in 2018, I didn't look into it too much because it's so hard to find like
mhm.
exact, when you look up production companies, they'll be like this person, but if I'm not mistaken, I think Netflix straight owns this thing. I think they bought it from him after he made it because
Mm,
The Night Comes for Us was so like popular for them. And because they have that as well, and which that is action, but it's very like I think the action's a little gorier than other action films and stuff, and that's one of the reasons that it kind of like stood out to me. Uh,
yeah.
with that one, it made me like want to watch this, and but this film has like not left Netflix, so that's a positive thing. Is it's become like a go-to recommendation
Mm,
for me because I know it's always on Netflix, and everybody always has Netflix. You know what I mean? So as much as I think their horror selection sucks, there's always like this one and like a couple other like The Ritual, a few others that I can always throw out and be like
sure.
check those out. So I'm super stoked that this is like pretty much a staple on Netflix at this point. But the director, which we haven't said his name yet, it is spelt this film is Indonesian, so I would assume he's Indonesian, but he might not be. But his last name is spelt different than it sounds.
Mm,
His name is Timo Tjahjanto, which he also did. One of the things is after this, he was supposed to do the Last Train to New York, which was a Train to Busan American remake, which would have been super awesome. I feel like if anybody could
oh,
really knock
crazy.
that out, it might be somebody like this. But apparently
Yeah.
that had like a lot of issues and stuff. I heard from another director that's a friend of his who had asked me not to talk about it too much, so I won't say that director's name, but he said it was
Mm,
like, and this was
sure.
years ago when it was more likely it might happen, not happen, this and that. It was like 2 years ago, and he even back then
Mhm.
he was like, it's probably never going to see the light of day. So, we probably won't ever see his last
Mm,
train in New York. I would like to see him return to horror, but it's cool to see him get these opportunities. I don't know if you noticed, but he went on to do the Nobody sequel. He did Nobody 2, that Bob Odenkirk movie with where he's like a
oh
retired
yeah, I
dad,
saw
but
that.
he's yeah. So he's like gotten like
Mhm.
up into the like blockbuster side of things now, or at least like his films might have been wide released in
Mhm.
like Indonesia and stuff like that, but now his films are actually like big, top build. That's like a movie that was like promoted on Netflix or not on Netflix, promoted on every YouTube video I
Mhm.
watched for like 3 months before it came out. So it's cool to see him like move into that,
Crazy.
side of filmmaking. But
Sick. That's awesome. Yeah, I had fun with the sequel to Nobody.
you know,
Didn't realize this was him.
but then of course, I'd love to see him return to horror, which I shared that we were doing this and said that, if you still want some more Evil Dead vibes in your life, check this film out. And he like fire reacted to it and shared it and stuff. So he seemed pretty stoked on the Evil Dead nod. So,
Oh,
and
sick.
that's kind of what attached me to this film the first time is somebody said this was like a Indonesian nod to Evil Dead. And this came out in 2018. So a lot of the stuff that are positives in this film, in my opinion, were kind of borrowed and used
Mm,
in Rise. If like, like the family dynamics, the
I
uh
could see that.
like Mo that's mostly the thing is the family dynamic, and I feel like it's used stronger in Rise. Don't get me wrong, like the
Hmm.
mom to kid ratio is used way more in Rise, where in this it's kind of like very short-lived. And there's some stuff in this that we'll get to that I feel like could go
Hmm.
a little further and make the film like really stick for me. But no, I just really enjoyed this film and like the nods to Evil Dead, the way that it carries everything, the way that it pretty much places Evil Dead in the lore of another country. Like this feels like they were using Indonesian
Hmm.
lore to tell the like love story to the Evil Dead. So
Sure, sure, totally. No, I could see that for sure. And I don't, when you first, talked about like wanting to cover this film, I don't know, and you might have said that it has Evil Dead influences, but I remember when I was like, I texted you like halfway into this movie. I'm like, this movie's so Evil Dead. And you're like, right? But yeah, no, it was super apparent. So,
hell yeah! Now that you were or had already finished watching it at that point, because it gets even there's even more stuff in it, which of course we're diving straight in at this point. So spoiler alert going forward for May
mhm.
the Devil Take You. I always forget to throw out a spoiler alert, so might as well do it when I can remember. But no, like this film has so much in it, from the fact that it is a cabin, with a cellar, and then like the cellar is where the evil lives,
Mhm.
to the fact that the mom pretty much becomes a deadite. So even later on, when the one girl starts losing her mind, the fucking animals start moving, like the fake animals within the movie start moving, and the statue changes faces, and it
Mhm.
does some very Evil Dead 2 shit when like Ash is in the cabin alone, like going crazy. So no, I just love the nods in this.
Yep.
They're subtle, they're not like forced, and they work in such a good way. But I will say that there's not much humor in this, like there is in some of the Evil Dead films. But it's also not mean, so it doesn't like.
No, but there's like
Go ahead. I
there's
think there's a
humorous
slight delay, but
moments though. Like it has good timing. Oh yeah, you're good. I say it's not humorous, it's not like campy, I wouldn't call it that, but like there are definitely some like humorous moments where you're like, okay, that's funny. Like
yeah,
the pause or the timing where it's just like you know, it is funny, but it doesn't rely on that as like the payoff for a certain bit.
yeah. No, and it does do even like really like straightforward things that are nods, but it doesn't do them like like for instance the Sam Raimi Zoom, like where when she's like, "All right, you're
Mhm.
gonna break down the door or whatever," and he goes and gets the hammer out. It like goes very Sam Raimi for a second, where it's like bam, 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 grabs the hammer, pulls it up, zooms in, quick
Mhm.
zoom, and then it never does that again in the film. You know what I mean? So it's like it does these nods
Sure.
without just beating you over the head with them and stuff, and like just creating this like
Mhm.
tone, the same tone in the same Raimi. Because this film, dude, there's some scary fucking scenes in this movie, in my opinion.
Mhm. Oh yeah. I love the setup too. I like that it's not just an evil force and like I mean I like the Evil Dead setup. It's fine. But so many movies do the like, oh, I repeated these words. Like this is like if anything, it's really kind of more like a curse or a ritual gone bad. It's like careful what you wish for kind of scenario with the dad making this binding deal with this satanic folklore demon priestess, and he wants to be wealthy, so he offers up his wife,
Yeah,
uh in exchange for wealth and happiness or whatever. But yeah, I thought that was cool. I love the weird like hair eating and stuff like that in this. But yeah, it's a cool setup for sure. I dig any movie that like leans into like more folklore, for the actual like, you know, evil that is unleashed.
yeah. then you get kind of explained and pretty much all that like so quickly too, without it being like just straight
Hmm.
exposition. Which I mean, the second half of it kind of is exposition, just written. But I mean, I like films that do that where
Hmm.
they use the credits to like actually tell you something. You know what I mean? If you're gonna sit with credits for 10 minutes and you don't care about just the names of everybody because you could see them again at the end, like it's nice to have like, and you're not gonna do something cool and animated or cool and like catchy or like play the theme song. Like if it's not a Bond, you know, like
Hmm.
when you see a Bond film, the themes are awesome because you get the new Bond song and stuff. So now I like when opening credits
Sure.
utilizes the credits and like this kicks off with, you know, the dad doing the ritual and like getting visited by this very like haunting, I almost say almost witchy, you know what I mean? She feels very
Hmm.
like almost like a witch, you know, or something like that. But you know, he makes a deal with her, but he makes a deal. He uses her to make a deal with the devil, essentially, to for riches, and then that's all
Hmm.
you see in the beginning is him make the deal, and you see that it goes a little wrong, but that's about all you see. But then once it kicks into the credits, that's when you realize that it's like how he's kept the ritual up is it shows him like he had one wife and then she had a tragic thing and then he had another wife and then you know
Hmm.
now he's on his like fourth or fifth one or whatever. So no, it was cool that like they
Hmm.
did it in two segments without like any of it just being like somebody sitting there and telling a story or anything, you know what I mean? So it was pretty cool. I really enjoyed how they gave us that
Hmm.
information so quickly and in a very unique. I mean, it's not like it's
Hmm.
not been done before, but it was in a way that didn't feel like over explained, you know?
Sure. Totally. Yeah, and then I guess after that we get introduced to all the kids. Well, we get introduced to Alfie first, right? Because she's like on the streets, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I think she's on Subway or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And they go to the hospital, and I remember when this was first kicking off into that, I was like, I wasn't really sure where it was going, you know. Uh, but then like the hospital scene. Uh, has my first absolute favorite moment. You know, well, first of all, they're visiting their dad who's like in a coma or he has this illness. And I'm like, you know, and it's all in subtitles. So like I'm reading into it, you know, what I am. And then I'm like, well, he's got all these boils on him.
Yeah.
And none of them seem to be nearly that concerned about these pustule like bumps and boils all over his body. I'm like, I would not hug that man at all. He's
Right.
gross. Um, but you get your first scene with like Alfie being like, you know, haunted. I guess she kind of seems to have like a sixth sense a little bit, you know. Do you get the impression that she's like sensitive? I forget if that's explained. But I love that the girlfriend of her stepbrother Ruben, she gets the full puke puke Evil Dead gross factor all over her face with the dad just like blah. It is so good.
Yeah, that actor does a good job of being like not on purpose funny, you know what I mean? Like the dad, you know, because he's supposed to be gross and
Oh
stuff,
yeah.
but he like comes off as like even when he's doing the ritual and stuff, he seems like almost like a little goofy,
Hmm.
you know. So no, I love that scene, and that's another thing that they do like good is like that's a quick little like gross out nod to Evil Dead, and then you don't really get you get a couple more like somewhat gross out scenes later on, but nowhere near like you know it's not nowhere near Evil Dead style, and
Hmm.
nothing that probably reaches this level in my opinion. But and I agree that I think that there's something almost because you know you find out more and more as we watch the movie that she saw her mom get taken by this like witch type entity or like demon entity or whatever,
Hmm.
and so I think that when she got scratched or whatever happened to her when her mom got taken, I think definitely like opened her
Oh
up
yeah,
to
that's right.
yeah, like gave her some kind of like special like sixth sense or spidey sense to it since we already mentioned Spider-Man. But no, that haunting scene right there
Hmm.
is kind of what like really sold the movie for me because that opening scene was like, ooh, that's interesting, but it wasn't scary, you know what I mean? It wasn't like terrifying. And then this scene
Yeah.
came along and I was like, ooh, this movie's gonna kick up the scares and it's not gonna take forever to scare you again. You know what I mean? That was one thing that worried me is that they not only
Hmm.
had like a I wouldn't say lackluster opening, just not very scary opening, just kind of like a solid opening. So I was like, they need to kind of get back
Sure.
into the scares quick to sell me on the horror part. And no, they got back into it quick and made it really fucking creepy this in the first scare, so first true scare. So
Yeah, and then the other thing that I thought was super interesting about this movie, so they go back, you know, they all end up going back to the old mansion, this abandoned, ruined home that I'm assuming was their like house that he had, once he got rich.
Yeah.
But they're all like, you know, and this kind of jumps ahead. But did you find it funny that they're all like, yeah, I'm just gonna go sleep in this super disgusting home, like very comfortably, like nobody's putting down new sheets or anything. They're just like, it is gross in there. And they're just like, yeah, we're just hanging out, just kick back, relax. I'm like, I wouldn't want to do that.
Well, I will say, if I'm not mistaken, Alfie's the only one that's going there to stay, which I mean it makes sense because she's like on the street, so like she's kind of used to the grossness. It's probably
Mm,
better than her alternative. Um,
sure.
but if I'm not mistaken, I believe the mom makes the comment of like we're leaving tonight, like saying that they're not
Hmm.
staying there. You know what I mean? And then of course everything happens because like because they come there with like a purpose to like search the house and get what they want. And I think in that moment when they show
Oh
up and
yeah.
Alfie's like kind of like eavesdropping, I want to say that they make the comment of like we're leaving tonight. We're not like we're not here to bullshit. So I don't think they were planning on staying. And then of course when shit goes
Hmm.
crazy, you stop caring about dirt and stuff. But no, I do agree though. Like
Sure.
if they were out there to stay, especially as like high class, quote unquote, as the mom tries to be in this movie, which she's like total bitch, but she's the first to go, which makes
Uh-huh.
sense. And then like they make her a hateable character for a reason. But uh no, she I think that if I'm not 100%, but I do think that there's like a real quick like one line about them not staying or whatever. So
Mm-mm. Yeah, I think you're right. And then I love the like in that build up, the whole like awakening of the house and them just removing all of these like tokens or whatever these like symbols that clearly the dad put on the door to keep the demon out, and they're just like blah 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 blah. And you're just like, oh no, this is gonna be so bad, and it gets bad.
yeah, that's probably like the funniest part. I know I did say that there wasn't like much humor, but that scene probably was the funniest to me when it's
Mm.
like very obvious that like maybe there's a reason that door has so many symbols and locks, like literally several fucking locks, and you're just like, no, I want to see what's inside of it to make money, and that's it. And like that whole
Mm.
like you should have done that like thought ahead of time is like hilarious in that moment watching her just be completely stupid and it makes sense though because you know that that's one thing I do like about this film is they also just like they give you so much like lore so quickly they give you so much character so quickly like just their interactions at that hospital
Mhm. It's
knowing who
true.
they're supposed to be to each other how just um I can't think of the word right now, but the thinking about how like just how separated they all are and how much they like dislike each other. You immediately
Mhm.
get some of their characters from
Sure.
Maya and her mom, and then you get a little bit more of Ruben. They don't even like Ruben's girlfriend. Like Maya and her mom fucking suck, and it's not just like
Mhm.
because they're like too high class, or it's not Maya being like Maya doesn't just suck because of her mom being around. She sucks when her mom's not around. So it's like I feel like you get a lot of that quickly, and there's never like they never try to force like there's only one scene later on which I'll get to that I feel like they try to give anybody a little bit more redemption than they deserve. And but other than that, like nobody else I feel like tries to get redemption
Mhm.
that they don't deserve. You know what I mean?
Sure.
By being like this character for a
I
scene.
love to, and yeah. I love too when they do open the door. I think that was like the first like real like, oh, this is real freaky.
Yeah.
Where the youngest sister, um, Nara, I think is her name, right?
Yeah.
Um, when she's like, who is that? Like points at the figure in the doorway, and I'm like, oh, so good.
Yeah, adding the like little girl immediately makes this creepier. And then that actress is like that's another thing is I think that's one thing that this also did that Evil Dead Rise kind of borrowed that Evil Dead hadn't done before is add a child, you know what I mean? And having that child just around in general just
Mm.
makes it extra scary, like because that scene and her reaction makes that scene and is literally what makes that scene scary. After that, it becomes more like where you're just stoked because of how Evil Dead-ish it is. But later on,
Yeah, yeah, totally.
the scene with her in her room is fucking terrifying, dude. I hated that shit, like in a good way. But
But that's also another one, again, going back to just sleeping on the creepy furniture. I mean, I get it. They don't have a choice. That little girl, I mean, she's got some cojones being terrified of the closet and then just being like, oh, oh well, and
Yeah.
then goes and tries to fall back asleep. The audacity that she has to just nonchalantly be like, nah, it's cool. After everything we've already seen,
Yeah.
I'm
No,
good.
that's the one thing I will
That's
say is like,
bull crap.
yeah, their decision making skills suck. And I try to chalk it up to them being kids, but some of the shit they do
Yeah.
is just very questionable, like in general. You know what I mean? Like, when my, like, because
Uh-huh.
we're pretty much there, which I want to talk a little bit more about the kitchen scene before moving on too much. But
Sure, sure.
the scene with when Maya and Alfie leave the house is already stupid, first of all. But then the fact
Mm.
that they leave the house and as soon as Maya sees anything, she doesn't give her time to explain. She bolts out in the middle of the woods with her mom out there still being crazy and dead-eyed-ish. And I'm like,
Mhm.
nobody would do that. Like, I don't care how, like, even if you think that person's stalking you, like, you still would rather buddy system with them with a fucking dead-eye out in the woods. Like, what the fuck?
Mhm.
So no, just that scene, like you said, the little
Yeah.
girl waking up and going towards the closet. Like my ass would have fucking bolted out. I would have been like the kid in Halloween 2018 when he's like,
Yeah.
fuck this," and like leaves, you know. So that would have been me. I would have been like, hell no.
Totally.
But the only thing I want to touch on more in the kitchen is how the mom goes. Like that's what I love is how the mom goes full deadite. She like gets pulled back into the cellar by this thing that she's like pointing to and like looks down and you still don't even see it. You just see the hand at that point, and the mom just gets dragged completely away. Which the fucking fingernails, dude, fingernail shit gets me every time.
Yeah, that was brutal.
And
This
then
movie did a really good job with practical effects.
yeah, I will say that's one of my big complaints is the amount of CGI used because I felt like it was unnecessary. You know what I mean? They
Yeah.
did so good with the practical when they used them that for there to be so many CGI faces and like this and that, I was like, it was a little bit. The blend wasn't even in my opinion. You know what I mean? The practical was great. Like, there's a scene we'll get to later with like
I agree.
a face thing. You know that happens, but that was fucking amazing, and I was like, I want more of
All
that.
all I could think of though, like in those moments was just like, yeah, if this had maybe more budget or, more experience behind it. I mean, I guess you could make the argument like, well, Sam Raimi didn't have, and he did it, but it was a different time. So,
Oh yeah. Yeah, his cutting corners were definitely different than today's cutting corners. And then also on top of that, I will say that I enjoyed the look of everything. Kind of like we said with Hokum, how that witch was basically just like slightly changed
mm,
regular person. This is almost the same thing, it's just, they kind of pale him up a little bit, give him sharp teeth and red eyes, and then there's just a slight bit of makeup. There's not like actual face transformation, you know
yeah.
what I mean? So no, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, her possession look was sick. I loved the painted white face with the big like solid black eyes like and
Yeah.
and all the red blood and everything. It was cool. I feel like it's really easy to like do a cheesy like possessed demon type look, you know. It's
Yeah.
always like just a like oh, or whatever, but no, this was cool and it felt unique but it felt familiar at the same time, which I appreciated.
And it's done something that Evil Dead should have done 100 times and just for whatever reason never thought of. But the Deadite destroys the car. Like that could have easily been their fucking like how many Evil Dead films did they get in the car and drive just to see a whole like fucking bridge destroyed or it's flooded? It's like you could
Sure.
just have the Deadite go outside and rip the fucking engine out and then dip, like just have a Deadite do that shit. But no,
Yeah, yeah,
I enjoyed that. And then I also enjoyed I think this is the first time we get it. The way it shows the evil travel, it was almost like instead of going Evil Deadish, it almost
yeah.
felt like Donnie Darko-ish. You know what I mean? Where in Donnie Darko, where you see like the trails of
Mm.
people in the party scene later on, and you kind of see these people following their trails. It was
Yep.
like that, but almost like without the like it was more clear. You know what I mean? More just like a fading thing.
Sure,
It
sure.
was cool, but
No, definitely. Yeah, so then yeah, they go in the woods and Maya and Alfie get separated, right? That's what
yeah,
happens. Because that's when Maya basically gets possessed by her mom. Oh, she gets the tongue.
yeah. No,
Gets
that was
that
fucking
tongue
Gene Simmons,
action.
dude.
That was the first part. I was like, here's the bad CGI. Like of everything you've done so far, you're gonna give me that stupid digital looking tentacle. I don't
Yeah.
want that. But
I would
it's
have rather
fine.
just
It's
thrown
just
up
what
on
it
her
is.
again. Yeah, just like just spew on her. That's
Yeah.
practical and easy. Fucking.
So Maya then gets possessed and they get back to the house. And that's like right around when we have the like Alfie and Ruben, they have their like chat, and then Nara has her spooky wardrobe uh moment, right? Isn't that when that happens? I feel
Yeah,
like
that
there's kind of like a middle part in this film where things start to kind of like, I don't know, it kind of drags a little bit in the possession-y of the house. I don't
yeah,
know if you noticed that. Maybe it
yeah.
was just me. It also could have been just a little bit late.
No, I feel you on that. It is definitely drags a little bit after she like beats her mom with a hammer. Pretty much, she like goes off, and that's one of my other
Oh yeah.
my other like major complaints about the film though is that I wanted to see Maya become dead-eyed-ish at some point, and she just stays Maya the rest of the movie. Like maybe not immediately
Hmm.
because you still need the interaction with I think the name of the girlfriend is Lily or something like that, the Ruben's girlfriend. Because she has that interaction. So it made sense to keep her like normal a
Hmm.
little longer. And even like maybe when she gets back to the house, but like once they enter the climax in the cellar, I would have liked for her to at least be like somewhat like her mom with the black eyes and the white face paint and shit. But no, yeah, it's one of those things that kind of like the same thing we had with the Phantasm films. It's not that the film becomes forgettable or anything. It's just so many things start happening at the same time that
Hmm.
you're not sure which one's happening at first or
Sure.
second. And it's because you got the storyline of her going through the woods, you get the scare of the wardrobe, but then you also at the same time, like you said, got the Alfie and Ruby, Alfie and Ruben conversation about the book where she's just like, "That's all I have," and it's pretty much a book just
Hmm.
saying how much she hates them and shit like
Sure.
that. So no, you do get a little bit of
Hmm.
like exposition there, but even there, like I will say that their conversation doesn't over explain anything. Like you still don't get like what exactly happened. You just know
Mm-mm.
that it's still a strain, which I really enjoy about this film. It keeps it a little bit brisk, especially because they do follow that like little bit of a lull in the story with probably, in my opinion, the best scare of the film with the wardrobe scare. But
Totally. Yeah, and then Maya comes back after they've all kind of like had their own like personal like hauntings and moments with the demon in the house and everything. Um, and we get what I think is like one of the cooler parts of like their power, which is like this whole like voodoo doll scenario.
oh yeah,
Um, what do you think of that? I thought that was really rad. Um, I thought it was cool because I feel like, I mean, granted, I know like the whole setup of this is it's not like this is not like I mean, it is a deal with the devil, but like these demons aren't specifically like just like let me move my arm and like magically make you do this. Like they have like little idols and tokens that they use to do their bidding, whether it's the hair or whether it's these uh, little voodoo dolls, which was very Stranger Things-esque, which I thought was kind of funny, because clearly this was before Stranger Things season 4, with all the Chrissy, and the Vecna,
yeah.
like breaking of the arms and everything. But they basically do that to Ruben, which I thought was cool. But it also that's kind of where you get a little bit some of that like CGI kind of But
Yeah.
I like the voodoo doll. It's a cool aspect to it.
Yeah, that's the one point where the CGI didn't bother me too much, just because I was so invested in how cool, like the like break his arm, break his leg, like I was like get his head, like even though I didn't want him to die because he wasn't
Yeah,
a bad person, it was just such a cool scene. And then the way like we'll go ahead and get there, he
yeah.
fucking rips his head off, and like you see his head go, and like blood starts spraying everywhere. No, that
Whoop.
was yeah, that was fucking rad. But I do want to mention just before we move on from the bedroom scene, my favorite part of the wardrobe scene is when they break in,
Mhm.
and that's kind of when sets up Maya's return because they're all so like exhausted from that fight because like the witch,
Mhm.
I don't know if they would call it a witch or a bruja in Indonesia or what, but she pretty much like pulls Nara down below the bed, and Alfie goes to get her, and she scratches Alfie again,
Mhm.
fucks up Nara's hands somehow. But when Ruben goes to grab her feet and pulls, and her head comes out too, that scene, I was like, what? I was like, that's so
Mhm.
fucking rad. That's like some grudge shit, you know what I mean? But no, I loved that
Yeah,
like
that was
scare part
cool.
of it. So I mean, of course, I love the whole setup. It felt very Conjuring as well, with the wardrobe and going to and from the bed, and then the scare happening, and
Sure.
no, I just loved everything with that. But no, the voodoo doll aspect was super cool, and it was never explicitly said. But in my opinion, I feel like you could use that as that's how they got Drew back to the house. Because there was a specific voodoo doll for each of them,
Mm.
and it could easily be said that the witch that was trapped down
Yep.
there originally could have like built those to like kind of give them all reason to come back to the house, and that's why they all ended up there at the same time. You know what I mean? Because that's one thing I like about films with magic is once magic or any kind of like supernatural thing is introduced, a lot of things can be explained with so many different little
Mhm.
like small sentences here or just like a quote there. So that's just a guess, but it'd be a cool reason.
Oh yeah. Um, and then yeah, so then does Alfie before Maya comes back, does Alfie discover like her father's journal before all that? I'm trying to remember when
Yeah,
that
because
happens in the film.
she's showing Ruben the journal when the attack
That's
happens.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when they're like looking through all that stuff, and that's kind of like their nod to the Necronomicon. Without having like a straight up Necronomicon, they have like this
Uh-huh.
journal about like all the rituals and his deal with Satan and all his past wives that he's like passed over as deals and shit. So
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. Oh, how about the girlfriend coming back to the house?
yeah, no, that part got me weak when she was like, "Why are you holding the hammer?" And she's like, "Don't worry about it."
Yeah. Can you roll your window down? No, thank you.
Yeah.
That was a really funny moment too. Yeah, that was great. Yeah, so then yeah, all hell is breaking loose, and then I feel like at pretty much everybody's like dying, because doesn't Alfie get like pretty like once the whole voodoo doll thing starts happening, like they all get like carried away. Because remember they like don't they doesn't like she get dragged away via voodoo doll, and they all get separated. Um, and is that when Alfie makes it back down to the basement, pretty much?
Yeah, after she kills, this is the scene I was going to talk about that I feel like they tried to do a little bit of redemption for no reason. Uh, she kills
Hmm.
Ruben and then uses the voodoo doll to pretty much throw Nora and throw Alfie down in the cellar. And when she does, it like knocks Alfie out. And when Alfie comes to,
Yeah.
it like shows a vision of her dad for whatever reason being like, no, you can't have my daughter. Cause I guess the witch or whatever wanted Alfie at some point, and like that's how it shows like that's how the
Yes.
witch ended up trapped down there, as he like refused to give it Alfie and then like left her down there. But my whole point is like I feel like that was trying to redeem the dad. And I'm like, this dude still killed like 4 or 5 wives. It doesn't matter that it wasn't his fucking daughter.
Oh,
Like
totally.
still a fucking dirtbag.
Yeah, that's
Like
that's right. Because it's like in his mind, he's like, oh yeah, like I already gave you my wife, and then uh the demon comes back and is like no, no, I want more, and
you
he's
know,
like, no, I'm not doing that. So then yeah, you get the that whole fight and death scene and uncomfortable eating of hair,
yeah,
um and yeah, so then we figure out that it's buried in the cellar. So that's how she gets the vision to know like she can dig up this demon and have a gross anatomy lesson by
yeah.
exhuming this body and digging through the belly. Ugh. Why would the belly still be like that? That had to have been so long ago.
No, and then and that's well that's another thing about it too that kind of threw me off is it's sets up a really cool part of the movie because she like pulls that out, like the paper out and hair or whatever, and throws it. But then she gets grabbed and like pulled down anyways, and then she wakes up and she's like covered in hair.
Mm.
And I don't know if that was supposed to be like the
Oh
witch,
yeah.
like if it was supposed to be the witch's like last ditch effort to keep her or what. But I'm like, but then she like gets out and leaves or
Something like that.
whatever. And I'm like, so did she break it or did she not? Like, I thought the scene was really cool, how like the thing sunk into the ground, but it just
Hmm.
it didn't make sense with the like. It was like it seemed like she defeated it, but they just wanted to give us one more little. Oh no, she didn't. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
why would that happen if she did? So I don't know. It just that was the only part where I was like, that was cool, but why did it happen? Like, yeah, like it didn't do anything.
Also, I like how I like how unprotective these demons are with their voodoo dolls. Like, it's just on my tiny little bit of twine.
You
My
know.
my little bit of twine. And Alfie's just like, yank, I saw that coming.
Well, that's what almost made me think that maybe that's why they kept Maya from being deadite-ish, is so that way,
Hmm,
like, she doesn't have that supernatural sixth sense. You know what I mean? She's just using like she has a little bit of knowledge, but
sure.
she doesn't actually have like the full power. So that way, she's not like in her head
Hmm.
because she still has that normal power to her, like normal human like mind to her. Alfie's able to just shit talk her into like kind of getting close enough to get the voodoo doll. So where if she was like a
Hmm.
deadite, it kind of wouldn't make us like if she was that close to her, she would be able to like smell her hand moving or something. You know what I mean? So I guess
Hmm.
it would make a little sense to keep her. That was the only thing. That's the reason I kind of wanted her to go deadite-ish at the end, though, is because to me, I was like, are they trying to say that she's just
Sure.
gone crazy at this point, or is she possessed? Like I couldn't fully tell by the end of that. So either way, she deserved to die. But like,
Yeah, freaking Maya sucked. She was
you know,
a bitch.
no. And I will say they were all careless about Nara. Like literally the whole time, Ruben and what's it called in there flipping through books, she's getting dragged into the bed. I'm like, y'all should have just been in. Like she should have never been put in a room by herself. Like you know what I mean? Like if I had a kid with me and my mom became a fucking deadite, the
Yeah,
last thing I would do is leave her alone. Like
the craziest thing you could ever imagine just happened in your life. All of reality is shattered by the supernatural, and you're just like, eh, let's split up. Let's all go bunker down into our own rooms. I don't know. Yeah, it's crazy.
like I know mom's possessed, but she'd be pretty pissed off if we don't have you in bed by 9:30. So
Yeah, this couldn't happen again. That was a one-time deal.
yeah. Sorry, there's bloodstained sheets, but you gotta sleep where you gotta sleep.
Yes. Uh, Too funny. Well, yeah, and then I like the ending. I did like how it showed more of like what really happened with Alfie's mom and all of that. And kind
Yeah.
of like trying to break that curse and everything. And her hand gets better, you know,
Yeah.
which was kind of a little cliche, but whatever. It was still cool.
Now, at first, I was like, is her whole fucking scar about to heal up? But then it was just like the infection
Yeah, yeah,
part.
yeah.
And I was like, okay, that makes a little more
I
sense.
thought so too. I was just like, oh, you can't heal those scars. Those are forever, brother.
Right? I was going to say, I don't know if that's the message that we should send. That scars do heal. Like, no.
Yeah.
But no, I really enjoyed like 90% of this movie. There's like I said, there's a few things that I would just had like, and it wasn't enough to be like, oh, that was stupid or anything. It was just kind of like
Oh,
why,
totally.
like kind of like a little bit of like a raise the eyebrow part, like of why certain things happened. And then of course, I do wish they went a little. If you're gonna go Evil Dead, I do wish they went a little further in some scenes. We didn't talk about the one cool ass scene where she like goes and sits next to her mom, and her mom like starts playing that real like crazy piano and just slamming on it. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
she like gets in her face, and that's like the best practical scene is when she like pulls her own fucking like flesh off, and it's like the witch
Mm,
underneath. I was like, that was awesome. That scare was cool, and then of course when Maya's standing there like with her back to her, and then like it turns around and it's not Maya anymore. It's like the
mm,
uh scare, just because like I like jump scares like that where like you're watching it about to happen. It's not like they're walking through a quiet hallway and then all of a sudden loud music cue and something jumps out. It's like she's sitting there being crazy. You know she's going to turn around
sure.
at some point, and it still does it in a way that works. So I really enjoy those. But
Totally. I mean, that just further like adds to your point about how this movie has so much like fruits to it as far as like visual scares and creepy ass stuff. It's almost like he was like, I could do this and I could do like he's just kind of showing off like all the different like creative ways he can do a scare, which maybe wasn't needed all of it, in the overall film to like make it, a little more seamless, but I'm not mad at it at all.
yeah,
It's rad. It's fun. Any horror fan, I think, should watch this movie.
Yeah, it's short, sweet, to the point, and doesn't do anything to where like you can watch this with like a 12-year-old. Like there's no
Hmm.
like there's gore, but there's no like crazy gore.
Yeah.
There's nothing that is sexual at all in this
Mhm.
entire film. You know, like in some of the Evil Dead movies, they'll at least be like, or like, you know, even like The Exorcist, like your mother sucks cocks in hell. Like
Yeah.
that might not be something you want your 13-year-old to hear or something, you know. So I mean, my 5-year-old probably already heard it just from me watching. We were watching the Dead Meat Awards again, and I keep forgetting that they just show everything, and so it's like I had to
Oh
like
yeah.
they did like the best kill award, and I had to be like, close your eyes, you can't watch all these. These are gonna just show the most craziest shit.
Yeah.
And then it showed it again anyways later when they were like best movie of the year, and I was like, he saw most of the fucking kills anyways,
That's
uh,
funny.
but no, so it was but no, that's one thing about this film is it's like open to, you know, of course, I guess them being that young, I mean, of course, you got to make sure that they're at a reading level that they can keep up with subtitles and whatnot. But this, no, other than that,
You
this
do
film,
have to read. You do have to be able to read. You have to be
yeah,
literate enough to read to watch this movie.
yeah. So I was gonna say like you can introduce it to somebody too young, and only because of that reason, because like it really doesn't go too far. And I think it's rated R, but it could nowadays in the United States, this could be a PG-13, and it would be probably one of the best
I don't
PG-13
know.
horror movies.
It's pretty violent. I would say I would be shocked to see this movie as a PG-13 movie, but that's just me. Uh
Yeah.
I was just thinking though, it'd be hilarious to find out if your friend doesn't know how to read through watching a foreign film and they're just like constantly. That sounds like a really funny bit where they're just like constantly like, "Oh yeah, 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 that thing." And you're like, "Wait, can you not read?"
Yeah. There's no way that hasn't been
Be
like
so fun.
a sketch or something yet. Like especially the That's a
That
Bad
has
Idea
to be.
guys that did Obsession. Like I'm sure
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
That
hope
sounds
that they've done it
right
by
up
now.
their alley,
Yeah.
like constantly misquoting films, foreign films because they just can't read.
Or like that one character that's such an asshole. You're like, damn, dude, I feel bad for that mom. You're like, what do you mean? She's the one that told him to take all the shit off.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
like, nah, dude, she thought it was she thought it was letters from his other wives, dude. Like, what? Like, it's just like all
Oh,
this
we did
random
not
shit.
watch the same film.
Yeah. You're watching Parasite and you're like, oh, that's the roommate. Like,
Uh,
no. Nah,
oh yeah.
that would be a funny little sketch, but nah, nah, this movie's good. That's one thing I would throw out about it. We can go ahead and wrap it up with a rating, and we'll say that before we do that, that I have seen May the Devil Take You 2. It's been several years,
Hmm.
but I do remember enjoying it and it having like pretty much like kind of being equal with this one. Like it had its small problems if you nitpick it, like you know.
Okay.
But other than that, it's just as like fun and has some scares, and it follows the same. I think the character, the girl that plays Alfie, is the lead again, so it
Hmm.
doesn't like move on to another
Yeah,
family
because
or anything.
this one ends a little bit like open-ended, so that would make sense that she would be connected to the second one.
Yeah, it's her and Nara leaving, and you hear the music, and then it kind of just shows the cellar door. So it's like, could the something still be down there, or could
Yeah.
it not be? So is that, and that's one thing is when it plays that music, it's like, is that diegetic or is it just for the audience? You know what I mean? So, you never know. But uh,
Sure, sure.
well, what would you give this out of 10? I'd like to hear your rating first, just because this is a first time watch for you.
Hmm. I don't know. So I feel like we've rated quite a few movies now. So like I'm
Uh,
trying to be careful not to fall into like the like trap of like, oh, I just seem to give every movie this rating. I would give it uh I would give it a 6 out of 10. And I
okay.
feel like that's me being like harsh a little bit because I really enjoyed this movie, but if I'm gonna put it up against a handful of other films, maybe it's a 6.5 out of 10. Uh Everything that it does well, it does exceptionally well. And then there's like the things that just make me feel like, yeah, this is a indie foreign film. Like I couldn't hold this next to a lot of other movies and say like they're the same rating. So yeah, I think it's a nice 6.5 out of 10. Like it's not like you did bad. It's you did good 6.5 out of 10.
Yeah. Now I feel that, and honestly, you kind of pulled me down slightly in my rating, but only because like it is true that we got to think about this in comparison with stuff. There's even been some films that I've probably rated way too high. Like I did Street Trash with Candy. I think I gave that a 9, and even though like it like accomplishing what it's trying to
Mm.
accomplish, like it deserves a 9, like in certain like aspects, but because eventually we might hit The Exorcist and that might get a 9, so it's like
Sure.
when I start to think about that shit, I am with you. So I'm not dropping it a ton. I was gonna give this an 8, still gonna give it a 7.5. But I do agree that like there's some stuff in this
Okay.
that is the stuff that's wrong with this happens in fun moments, so it doesn't matter to me as much. You know what I mean? Like if it happened in a film that I was already like having issues with or was bored with, it would take me out of it. But most of the time, like when there's an issue, I feel like it's almost like you said, it's like he had this fun idea, so he said, "Fuck it," like whatever it does to the story doesn't really matter. It's just let's have fun. It's a horror movie, and I like that
Sure.
because it doesn't destroy the movie. It just has you like kind of raising eyebrows at points, like in the climax and shit like that. But no, I really enjoy this. My only issues is that it doesn't go far enough. They create these Deadite characters, and then we only see like technically one of them. I would have loved to see like a Ruben Deadite, or even if he came in at the end with like a
Hmm.
fucking like broken up body, like Deadite, like anything, just like a little bit more. Like I just wanted more of certain things, and but as far as being like, when you hear in Indonesian Evil Dead, you feel like you might come in and get way too much of the nods. I feel like this was perfect, like with what it almost like wrote the movie with the cabin in the woods in mind, and then kind of just fit in the nods where they fit organically
Hmm.
instead of being like, I need to make this work. I need to make this work. It was almost like as they were making the film, they were like, we could tweak this a little bit and it would be Evil Dead-ish, or, this and that, instead of actually writing the film to be a nod.
Sure.
So it worked perfectly, in my opinion, as far as a nod being, like well, not a nod, being like a ode to something without just like overly copying it and stuff, just being a good homage. So, uh,
Sure.
no, I really enjoyed this film. Cast is great. I feel like the acting is pretty top tier as well. So, and the fact that it's very
Hmm.
accessible because it's always on Netflix. So, unless you can't read, which I'm sorry, Charlie, from It's Always Sunny, but I know people have the problems. My dad's dyslexic. I'm sure he struggles.
Maybe this movie is the thing that makes you learn how to read. If anybody's out there and you haven't gotten hooked on phonics yet,
Right.
do
Hey,
it for this movie.
if you need me to come over and read it to you, I got you. Just I can just sit there and I'll do voices and everything. The witch comes up, I'm like, give me your
We're not
wife.
making fun of anybody that can't read, by the way. Yeah. Oh my God.
No, I could
Oh my gosh.
I could just imagine that being like the like that's how the skit would end when they find out their friend like, dude, you can't read, and then it like flashes away and comes back, and like four of the friends are all doing different voices. You know what I mean? He's like, like, oh, my turn, my turn. Like,
Yeah, yeah, we got you. We got you. We got you.
yeah.
That's
It's
what
like,
friends are for.
I'm Alfie,
Oh
you're
my
the
gosh.
witch, and I'm just like, no, but definitely enjoyed
But
this
I
movie.
wanted to be the witch.
Right? Somebody comes out of the bathroom in green face paint. They're like, dude, I didn't think we were calling dibs yet. You're like,
Yeah.
no, this movie's fun
Uh,
as it's fun as shit. It's I yeah, I could recommend it to.
mm,
That's the thing is like I feel like even with the little bit lower scores, that's like the highest compliment that you could give this film is that
mm.
it's recommendable to any level of horror fan, in my opinion, and they'll enjoy it. So
Oh yeah.
like the more novice you are, the scarier it'll be. And then if you're like a veteran, you'll just love the nods, and it'll still be kind of creepy in moments. So,
I agree. I agree.
oh, yeah. Well, it was a blast chatting with you about May the Devil Take You. We'll be back in 2 weeks with your pick, which I know you had a pick that was kind of in the slot. I didn't know if you were definitely definite on it, so I won't say it just in
Yeah, I
case.
don't
But
know. I need to think about that one. Because the more that I think about it, the more I realize like it's kind of similar of a film. So is it too not similar story wise, but I mean like the type of film it is. So I'm like, maybe I pick something a little bit different. So we're not talking about these kinds of subjects, which doesn't give away what this film is because you will never know. But I would like to talk about that movie.
oh yeah,
But in the meantime, I'm gonna try to think of something else. I might try to think of something that, since it's summertime, something summery.
oh
So,
yeah,
because I don't think we've really, I mean, we've talked a little bit about some like camp horror stuff. It doesn't have to necessarily be a camp horror film, but I might pick up something that's like, oh yeah, for the summer. So,
oh yeah. No, that would be perfect because we've kind of gone through the summer without doing much. Like we did that summer camp episode, I think in like
Mhm.
February or March, and like, so I don't
Yeah,
think.
totally.
Yeah, so it'd be nice to cover at least something summary for the season for sure. I even was watching like Camp Nowhere the other day. I was gonna throw on heavyweight soon for my son. I was
Oh,
just
nice.
waiting for a good night, but so I've been covering some like non-horror, just watching non-horror summer movies lately. So I'm
Oh yeah,
been in that mood myself. But and then of course
sure.
next week between our episodes, I'll have the guys from Ramtha on that Florida band that I mentioned on our Hokum
Mhm.
episode. I really enjoyed them. I finally kind of came up with a way to describe them, and it's like progressive crossover because they're like, like you know what crossover is, right? Like Power Trip, but like
Oh
kind of like
yeah,
thrash, like
yeah.
hardcore. But they're like very like they'll go like very progressive, like very like riffy and like technical at times out of nowhere. So it's very cool. I enjoy them, but uh,
I just can't wait to start being like, "Are you in prog cross? You in prog
yeah.
cross?"
Dude, they gotta coin that shit. But and then after our episode, I'll be hooking up with my buddy from Flesh Creep, which they just put out a brand new EP. Go check it out. I think it's called Glimmer. Highly recommend it. It's like 4 or 5, maybe even 6 songs, all solid as fuck. I've been listening to it for the past couple of days, but I also just added it to my playlist, so it's kind of been playing organically. And then
Mhm.
after that will be my pick again, and we already know that we're covering Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 because it'll be in honor of the 40th anniversary. So get stoked on that, fellas, and ladies.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, I appreciate you, man. And if anybody listening, make sure you comment, leave a like, subscribe, whatever's clever for you listening. Let us know what you think of May the Devil Take You if you enjoyed the sequel as well. And I appreciate you, Steven. It was a blast chatting as usual.
Yes, sir. Likewise.